It began with a confession I never expected to hear. The cafe was small, tucked between a florist and a bookstore. The kind of place where voices naturally softened. My sister leaned across the table. Her fingers wrapped tightly around her cup, as if it were the only thing anchoring her. Her voice barely carried over the low hum of conversation. "It's my husband," she whispered. He's so large, Sarah. It's gotten so hard for me." The words didn't register at first, they hung in the air, fragile and impossible. For 5 years after my divorce, I had lived in careful silence, no chaos, no risk, no emotional storms. I had built a life that was orderly, controlled, safe. Her confession shattered that illusion in seconds. Later, weeks later, I found myself alone with him. My brother-in-law, Robert. The house felt colder than usual that night. The heating clicked softly in the background. But the silence between us was heavier than the winter air. There were things unsaid. Things now impossible to ignore after what Carol had told me. I don't know what possessed me. Maybe it was pity. Maybe curiosity. Maybe something far more selfish. Maybe I could help you. For her. The moment the words left my mouth, I knew there was no pulling them back. That night, we crossed a line no apology could erase. And in crossing it, he filled every room without trying. Emotionally, physically, completely. And yet for me, it felt different. After 5 years of numbness. After convincing myself that desire was something I no longer needed, I felt awake again. Alive in a way that terrified me. But he was my sister's husband. And I was her sister. Was this love? Or was it something darker, something born from loneliness and buried resentment? Before I go any further, if this story resonates with you, take a moment to subscribe and like. Your support gives me the courage to keep telling the truth, even when it's messy. My name is Sarah. I'm 45 years old. It's been 5 years since my divorce, 5 years of rebuilding myself from fragments. It was Carol who urged me to move closer after my marriage collapsed. "Sarah, it can't be easy living alone," she had said gently over the phone. "Come live near us. We can be a family again." Carol is 5 years older than me. She turns 50 this year. For 20 years she has been a devoted homemaker. Married to one man, Robert. He's 52, a respected engineering manager downtown. To everyone else, Bob is stability embodied. Dependable, solid. The man you trust without question. That illusion lasted until the afternoon everything changed. We had just finished yoga. Something we'd started doing together 3 months earlier. The routine had softened us. Our bodies more flexible, our smiles easier. Sunlight poured through the cafe windows as we sat with our drinks, the world feeling ordinary and calm. "You looked graceful today," I teased her. "You're really getting good." She laughed, taking a sip of her black coffee. For a moment, she looked later than I'd seen her in years. Then I asked the question. "Sa, how are things with you and Bob?" 20 years is a long time. The shift was immediate. Her smile disappeared. Her shoulders tightened. The cafe's cheerful noise seemed to dissolve until there was only the silence between us. "Did I say something wrong?" I asked softly. She traced the rim of her cup, avoiding my eyes. "The truth is it's Robert," she said. He's so large. It's become a real struggle for me." I blinked, certain I had misunderstood. "What are you talking about?" "I've put up with it for 20 years, she whispered, her voice trembling. "But it's getting harder as I get older. Every time we're together it hurts, it's agony. And I don't think he even knows." My sister, the woman I had always envied for her stable, perfect life, had been carrying this pain alone for decades. "I'm sorry," she murmured. "I shouldn't be telling you this." "No," I said quickly, though my heart was racing. "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. The image I had of their marriage cracked in that instant. The foundation of our family, solid, dependable, suddenly seemed fragile. "I can't tell him," she continued, her eyes glossy with unshed tears. "I don't want to hurt him. He's a good man, Sarah. I don't know how much longer I can keep pretending." And that was the moment everything began to unravel. A single tear slipped free, carving a quiet line down Carol's cheek. "How could I tell him?" she whispered. "It would crush him. It would destroy his pride. For 20 years she had endured in silence, shielding her husband's ego while her own body paid the price. The weight of that sacrifice settled heavily between us as we stepped out of the cafe and into the fading afternoon light. Her confession followed me home like a shadow I couldn't outrun. That night, sleep refused to come. Her words replayed in endless loops. He's so large it hurts, he doesn't even know. For 5 years after my divorce, I had shut down that entire part of myself. I had locked away desire, vulnerability, longing, built walls so thick nothing could get in or out. I convinced myself solitude was strength. But now something had shifted. It wasn't just sympathy for Carol. It was something more unsettling. A restless curiosity. A quiet stirring under the surface of the woman I'd buried. A week later, we gathered for our usual family dinner at Carol and Robert's house. Bob opened the door with his familiar warmth. "Sarah, good to see you." Bob, you too?" He hadn't changed, not at all, but I had. Now I saw him through the lens of my sister's confession. At 50, he still carried himself with confident ease, tall, broad-shouldered, easily 6 feet. Years at the company gym had kept him strong, composed. He looked younger than his age, steady and grounded. This is the man who's hurting my sister. The thought struck me harder than I expected. In the kitchen, I helped Carol prepare dinner, but my attention kept drifting to the living room, where Bob adjusted the thermostat, flipped through channels, moved with quiet assurance. Before, he had simply been my dependable brother-in-law. Now, whether I liked it or not, I was aware of him as a man. It lasted less than a second. A harmless accident. But a spark shot up my arm, sharp, and why did it feel like that? "Stop it," I scolded myself. "This is Carol's husband. You don't get to feel anything." Throughout dinner, I caught myself studying him. The ease in his voice when he spoke. The comfortable rhythm between him and Carol, 2 decades of shared history woven into every glance. Yet Navin, I knew, I could see the fractures. The slight tightness around Carol's smile. The way her eyes dropped when conversations turned too intimate. "Still working late a lot, Bob?" I asked, trying to sound casual. "Yeah, end of the quarter. Pretty hectic," he replied. "But I'm trying to make more time on weekends. Take Carol out, you know." The air shifted. Carol's fork paused midair. "Oh, these days we mostly just relax at home," Bob added quickly, his tone subtly strained. Carol kept her gaze fixed on her plate. There it was, the unspoken distance. The gap neither of them knew how to cross anymore. Driving home that night, my thoughts spiraled. My sister's marriage. My own unexpected reactions, the dormant woman inside me stretching awake after years of numbness. And why him? Why did it have to be my brother-in-law who made me feel this sudden, dangerous awareness? A warning siren blared in my mind. "This is a line you never cross. You're a terrible person, Sarah," I muttered to myself, gripping the steering wheel tighter. But the truth was harder to admit. They blended into a forbidden, intoxicating storm. I hated myself for the direction my thoughts were drifting. And yet, for the first time in 5 years, I felt something. Not just guilt, not just confusion, but aliveness. A flicker of womanhood I had convinced myself was gone forever. It scared me. Because I wasn't sure I had the strength to extinguish it. The next morning my phone rang. It was Carol. "Sarah, if you're free today. Not busy. Why don't you come over for dinner tonight?" Carol's voice tried to sound casual, but I heard the strain underneath it. "What's the occasion?" I asked. "Bob's getting home early for once. I thought it would be nice. Just the 3 of us. A quiet evening." That subtle plea. She wanted a buffer. A bridge. Someone to soften whatever tension had been building behind closed doors. "Okay," I said after a pause. 6. "That would be perfect, thank you, Sarah. You're a lifesaver." When I hung up, I exhaled slowly. I was going to see him again. And I needed to get these thoughts under control before they became something I couldn't contain. But as the afternoon slipped by, I found myself standing in front of my closet far longer than necessary. Normally I would have reached for whatever felt comfortable, invisible. Tonight, I hesitated. Why did it matter what I wore? I chose a black knit sweater and well-fitted jeans, simple, understated. But the fabric skimmed my shape more than my usual loose layers. "Who are you dressing for?" I murmured to my reflection. The woman in the mirror didn't answer. By the time I pulled into their driveway, the sun was bleeding out behind the trees. Late December had wrapped the neighborhood in brittle cold. The sky looked metallic, unforgiving. Inside, it was worse. The air bit at my skin. "Carol, why is it freezing in here?" She emerged from the hallway wearing a heavy winter coat, her face pale. "The furnace broke this morning. The repairman was supposed to come hours ago, but he hasn't even called." "We can turn on the electric blankets," I suggested. She hesitated. "Actually, I need to go to the hospital." My stomach dropped. "What? Why?" "The stomach pain I told you about, it's worse. I don't think I can ignore it anymore. I'll tow with you." "No." Her tone was firm. "Someone has to stay for the repairman. We can't leave the house unlocked." She was right. "When will Bob be home?" "Around 7. Could you just wait for him?" "Of course," I said. "Don't worry." She rushed out, the door shutting behind her with a hollow thud. And just like that, I was alone. The house felt cavernous in the cold. I turned on an electric blanket and wrapped myself tightly in a throw. But the chill seemed to seep in deeper than skin. It felt symbolic somehow, their marriage, this house, all warmth failing at once. "It'll be better when Bob gets here," I thought. The instant the thought formed, my pulse quickened. Alone in the silence, my mind wandered where it shouldn't. "Is it really that big?" "Stop," I muttered aloud. "What is wrong with you?" But curiosity is a stubborn thing. Once planted, it grows. At 6:30, I heard a key turning in the lock. "Hello." Robert's voice carried through the entryway. "You're home early," I called. "Managed to get out sooner." He stepped inside, loosening his tie. "Where's Carol?" I explained about the furnace, about the hospital. Concern clouded his face immediately. It wasn't an act, it was genuine. "So it's just the two of us until the repairman gets here," he said quietly. "Looks that way." "You must be freezing." He shrugged off his overcoat, revealing the clean lines of his suit beneath. Up close, his presence felt larger than the room, broad shoulders, steady posture, a kind of contained strength. "Did they call back?" he asked. "Nothing." He tried himself, phone pressed to his ear, frustration flickering across his expression when he got no answer. "Looks like we're stuck waiting," he sighed. "Let's at least warm you up." "Coffee." "That sounds perfect." I followed him into the kitchen, watching him move. Confident, practiced, I felt that awareness again. The one I was trying so hard to suppress. "You know how to make coffee?" I teased, trying to keep things light. He gave a small smile. "You learn a few things after 20 years of marriage." But the smile faded in his eyes. A quiet emptiness. Loneliness, maybe. Was it the distance Carol had described? Or was I imagining cracks where none existed? He poured the coffee carefully and handed me a mug. "Sugar." Our fingers brushed again as I reached for it. This time neither of us pulled away immediately. The air shifted. The house was still cold. But something else was warming dangerously fast. "Yes, please." "Just a little." I watched as he stirred the sugar into my coffee. His hands were large, steady. Capable hands that made the ceramic mug look fragile. Without meaning to, my thoughts drifted again. Those same hands, on my sister. I forced the image away. "Here you go." When I reached for the mug, our fingers brushed. Barely a second. But the contact foam charged, like static snapping between us. My breath caught. Did he feel that too? Or is this all in my head? We returned to the living room and sat side by side beneath the electric blanket. The closeness felt different tonight, more intimate, more exposed. Usually Carol filled the space between us, the safe center of our triangle. Now there was only the hum of the broken house slowly losing its heat. How are you doing these days, Sarah?" he asked softly. "Still tough living on your own?" "It's okay," I replied. "I've gotten used to it." He studied me for a moment. "Still, it must get lonely." There was genuine concern in his voice, and it unsettled me more than flirtation would have. He wasn't being inappropriate. He was being kind. And you? I asked before I could stop myself. How are you? He hesitated. I'm doing okay. The pause said more than the words. There was something behind them, fatigue, maybe. Or quiet frustration. Before either of us could go further, the doorbell rang. The repairman. Relief broke the tension as Bob led him downstairs. Nearly an hour later, the furnace hummed back to life. Warm air flowed through the vents, slowly thawing the frozen house. All set, the repairman said. You shouldn't have any more trouble. When he left, Bob exhaled deeply. That's better, he called Carol. After a brief conversation, he turned to me. She needs a few more tests, might be late. I glanced at the clock. 8 already. What about dinner? He asked. You hungry? We moved into the kitchen together. The fridge was full. Carol was always prepared. How about pasta? He suggested. Sounds good. I'll help. The kitchen felt smaller than usual. As we moved around each other, reaching for utensils, chopping vegetables, our bodies kept brushing. His arm grazing my back, my shoulder bumping his chest. Each touch sent a ripple through me. Why am I so aware of him? And worse, why didn't I entirely dislike it? Sarah, could you grab the serving platter from the top cabinet? Which one? The large one, top shelf. I stretched onto my toes, fingertips barely grazing the edge. I'm too short. I laughed. I'll get it. He stepped in behind me too close. His body pressed lightly against my back as he reached above me. I froze. The warmth of him seeped through the thin knit of my sweater, solid and undeniable. And then I felt it. The unmistakable proof of what Carol had described. My pulse slammed against my ribs. It wasn't abstract anymore. It wasn't just a whispered confession over coffee. It was real. Oh, sorry, he said quickly, stepping back, his face flushed. It's okay, I managed, though my voice felt unsteady. But it wasn't okay. My entire body was trembling. The brief contact replayed in my mind in slow motion. Now I understood Carol's pain in a visceral way. And yet, alongside that understanding, something darker bloomed. Curiosity, forbidden, dangerous curiosity. Don't go there, I warned myself. But the line had already blurred. Dinner was quiet. The easy rhythm we usually shared was gone. Replaced by an awkward awareness of what had happened in the kitchen. Beneath the silence, though, there was something else. An undercurrent neither of us acknowledged. This is delicious, I said, breaking the tension. Yeah, he replied softly. Turned out okay. He avoided my eyes. Was he replaying the moment too? After we finished eating, I stood at the sink washing dishes, grateful for the distraction of warm water against my hands. Then his phone rang. It was Carol. The sound cut through the fragile calm like a blade. Hello, he answered, voice steady but quiet. Okay, yet I understand. See you then. Be safe. He hung up and turned to me, a hint of concern still lingering on his face. She said she'll be home around 10, he said. They're still not done with the tests. I glanced at the clock. 9. Another hour to wait. My instinct was to leave, to retreat to the safety of my own home. But a part of me didn't want to. No, he said before I could speak. Carol would want you here when she gets back. I knew he was right. But staying felt dangerous. Still, I couldn't bring myself to leave. We sank back onto the sofa, the electric blanket draped over our laps. We turned on the TV. But neither of us really watched. I was acutely aware of him, his proximity, the warmth radiating from his body, the quiet tension that hummed in the room. Sarah, he said, his tone unusually serious. Yes, I replied, heart thudding. Can I ask you something about Carol? His voice carried a gravity that made me sit straighter. This felt important. Of course. What is it? Lately, he had noticed something. A distance growing between him and Carol. I feel like she's avoiding me, pushing me away. He knew. Even without the details, he could feel the fracture. Why do you think that is? I asked, though I already knew the answer. I don't know. I keep wondering if I did something wrong. His words trembled with helpless confusion. It was clear this was the first real crisis in their year marriage. She does seem stressed lately. I offered cautiously. He nodded, relief evident. Have you tried talking to her about it? Asking her directly? I want to, but I don't even know where to begin. He admitted. Men can be dense sometimes. Or men can be just pretend not to know. Sarah, you're a woman. Maybe you understand what she's thinking. I froze. How could I possibly answer that? Well, women can be complicated. I don't get it. We've been married 20 years. He sighed. His vulnerability was disarming. I took a treat carefully. Maybe it's about, the physical side of things, I ventured, voice tight in my chest. Physical? What do you mean? I spoke in code, hoping he would grasp the meaning without explicit words. Sometimes, in the bedroom, if a man is too intense, it can be difficult for a woman. He was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, deliberately, he nodded. You think that's what it is? Women are more sensitive than men physically. So what should I do? His eyes searched mine. Genuinely. Sincerely. He wanted guidance, wanted to fix what was broken. You have to be gentle, I whispered. Considerate. Think about what she wants first. Talk to her. The atmosphere had changed. Intimate. I couldn't believe I was speaking like this, with my sister's husband. Sarah, do you know these things from experience? He asked, eyes locking on mine. Then his voice dropped, softer, rawer. I've been so lonely lately, he confessed. Even living with Carol, I feel alone. The words pierced me, both of them. Trapped in a marriage built on love, yet unable to fully reach each other. Bob, I'm sorry. You shouldn't be telling me this. No, it's okay. And somehow it felt like we were closer for it. You're a good person, Sarah. Am I whispered. Carol always said so. She always says you're the kindest person she knows. Hearing her name renewed the wave of guilt crashing over me. What was I doing? Feeling this connection with her husband. You love her very much, don't you? I asked, my voice barely audible. Of course. We've spent our whole lives together. Then you need to talk to her. Really talk to her, real. Thank you, Sarah. He reached out, taking my hand. It was meant as gratitude. And yet, that same spark jolted through me again. He froze, startled, quickly letting go. I am sorry, he stammered. It's okay. But it wasn't. Not for me. That fleeting contact awakened something I had kept dormant for 5 years. The warmth of a man's hand. The pulse of life that I thought I had buried, it surged through me, leaving me breathless and undeniably aware. And it was his hand, my sister's husband's hand, warm, grounding, brushing against mine. Sarah, he said, his voice huskier now, low and charged. Yes, I whispered, heart hammering. Are you lonely too? It was a dangerous question, one I shouldn't have answered. But against all reason, I found myself nodding. Yes, I breathed. 5 years. 5 long, empty years. It's been hard. You're having a hard time too. We just looked at each other. Carol's absence hung in the room, palpable, like a third presence, heavy and undeniable. The air thickened with unspoken possibilities. Sarah, I'm having a strange thought right now. He murmured, barely above the whisper of the electric blanket. What kind of thought? My voice trembled, though I already knew. I want to hold you. My chest ached. My heart felt like it would explode. I never imagined I'd hear those words from him. Bob, you shouldn't. But I didn't pull away. Instead, I leaned closer. I've been thinking it too. I admitted, words tumbling out before I could stop them. The dam had broken. You have. His voice was barely audible, trembling slightly. Yes, then can we? He cupped my face in his hands. Warm. Gentle. Solid. I know we shouldn't, I whispered. I know, he breathed back. We'd admitted it. We both felt the same forbidden pull, a magnetic current neither of us could deny. The words escaped me before caution could return. Maybe I could help you for her, Sarah. He breathed my name, leaned in, and his lips met mine. Soft, tentative, longing. The first kiss I'd had in 5 years. Warm, electric, and full of a hunger I hadn't realized I still carried. Guilt stabbed sharp and immediate. Betrayal to my sister, but another, more overpowering emotion took over desire. Just as the kiss deepened, the front door clicked open. Honey. I'm home. Carol's voice rang through the house. We sprang apart, hearts pounding, eyes wide. Wet, Bob hissed, straightening his shirt. I frantically smoothed my hair, hands shaking. By the time Carol entered the living room, we were on opposite ends of the sofa, staring at the TV as though nothing had happened. You two have been working hard, she said, offering a weary smile. Are you okay, Carol? Were you in a lot of pain? I asked. No, nothing serious. Probably just stress, she replied, sinking beside Bob. Relief softened her features. But I couldn't share in it. Moments before, I'd been kissing her husband. Thanks for waiting, honey, and Sarah. Thank you for staying, she added, completely unaware of the storm that had passed between us. They settled into their familiar rhythm. 20 years of shared life evident in every easy gesture. But watching them together now, I felt a sharp, sickening pang. Guilt washed over me like a tidal wave. What had I done? The regret was immediate, suffocating. But the line had already been crossed. There was no going back. That night, sleep eluded me. Bob's lips on mine, the warmth of his hand, the forbidden closeness. Every detail branded itself into my memory. Fear and longing tangled together in my chest. A treacherous part of me already anticipated the next encounter, even as another part screamed in warning. A week passed in agonizing silence. I didn't hear from him, nor could I summon the courage to reach out. Yet my mind replayed that night endlessly, the touch of his hands, the taste of his lips, the spark of life I thought lost. Each glance in the mirror reflected the woman I had been, the one I thought was gone forever. A dangerous. Awake, I hated myself, a terrible sister. A betrayer. Yet at the same time I felt alive again, more than I had in 5 years. I picked up my phone over and over, thumb hovering over his name. Typing and deleting messages, wrong, impossible. Then, Thursday afternoon it rang. Sarah, it's me. Hi Bob, do you have time? Can we meet? There's a cafe near my office. I need to talk to you. What could he want? Was he going to tell me to forget everything? What time? An hour later, we sat in a quiet corner, the cafe bustling around us yet unable to touch our bubble. He looked different, dark, serious, tense. I felt the weight of unspoken words pressing down. Sarah, about the other night, he began. Here it comes. Are you going to tell me to forget it? I asked, bracing myself. No, the opposite. His answer shocked me. What do you mean? I can't forget it, he said, voice strained. I've thought about you every single day this week. I wasn't alone. Then Bob, I'm sorry. I know, but me too, I confessed, finally honest. You have. Yes. I can't stop thinking about it. A flicker of relief crossed his face, but it quickly turned to the same troubled, haunted expression. But, we can't do this, Sarah. We both know that. I know. I whispered. We understood. Both knew the line we had crossed was unforgivable. Yet our hearts pulled us toward the impossible. So what do we do? He asked, voice trembling with despair. I had no answer, no solution, no right path. Only the knowledge that everything had changed, and nothing would ever be the same again. Just one more time, he whispered. The words barely audible but heavy with longing. Can we meet just one more time? I froze. Dangerous, reckless. I knew it wouldn't end with just one more time. And yet my heart had already made its choice. Where? I asked, my voice betraying my resolve. Tomorrow, he said. Carol's going to the movies with her friends. She'll be gone all afternoon. My pulse raced. Too risky, too reckless. At your house, he said, eyes searching mine, pleading. No one will be there. It'll be safe. His desire was raw, tangible, impossible to resist. I couldn't say no. Okay, I whispered. Really? Yes. On the drive home, waves of guilt crashed over me. This is a mistake. I shouldn't do this, I'm so sorry. Carol. And yet, beneath the guilt, a thrill of anticipation hummed. Tomorrow I would be alone with him. That night, sleep was impossible. My heart thudded with fear and excitement, a storm of emotions I hadn't felt in 5 years. The next afternoon, choosing an outfit took forever. I wanted something effortless yet subtly alluring. I settled on a black knit dress, simple, elegant, form-fitting in a way that felt both modest and confident. In the mirror, I saw a woman who had grown, matured, and rediscovered herself. Years of solitude, self-care, and quiet resilience had brought me here, feminine, strong, aware. By the time I arrived, my heart was hammering against my ribs. Is this really happening? Am I making the right choice? I rang the doorbell. He opened it, dressed casually, and I felt my breath catch. Out of the stiff office suit, he seemed even more real. More alive. The house was silent. Empty without Carol. Coffee? He asked, the same words as before, yet laden with a different meaning. We both knew why I was here. We sat in the living room. sipping our drinks in a silence thick with tension. I didn't know what to say, how to act. Sarah, his voice low, intimate. Or are you going to regret this? I shook my head. I don't know. But right now I just want to see you. He reached for my hand. This time he didn't let go. May too, he whispered. I can't stop thinking about you. Electricity shot through me, a current I hadn't felt in years. Sarah, he murmured, drawing me closer. His arms wrapped around me in a warm, solid embrace. Safety, comfort, desire. When had I last felt a man's around me like this? This is crazy. He breathed into my hair. I never thought I'd feel this way. Me neither, I whispered. We held each other, wrong yet unable to pull away. And in that moment, we crossed a river from which there was no return. We were betraying my sister, and we both knew it, but the pull was irresistible. That afternoon, we gave in. 5 years of pent-up emotions, frustrations, and longing poured out of us. Bob too seemed freed from the loneliness and distance that had defined his marriage. And in that moment, I understood Carol's pain completely. It had been real. All of it, and far beyond what I could have imagined. The physical connection startled me, a dimension of intimacy I had thought forgotten. Yet, surprisingly, my body responded. Not like Carol's, this was different. Perhaps when the heart is awake, the body follows. Sarah, are you really okay? He asked later, eyes soft with concern. More than okay. I wanted more. But as the quiet settled over us, guilt returned in a tidal wave. We've done a terrible thing. I whispered. I know, he replied, equally heavy with remorse. I feel so awful about Carol. Me too, I admitted. I didn't regret it. In the moment it had felt too right, too alive to deny. We can't do this again, can we? He asked. We shouldn't, I said. But my heart screamed the opposite. I wanted to feel this again. Later, driving home, my phone rang. Hey Sarah, what are you up to? Carol's cheerful, unsuspecting voice stabbed me with guilt. I had just left her husband's arms. Oh, just driving home. Dinner tonight. I'm sorry. Carol, I'm really tired tonight. Oh, okay, get some rest then. I hung up, breath shaking. How could I ever face her again? And yet, my feelings for Robert had already grown too deep. Another week passed, a secret tension threading between us. Every glance, every touch at family gatherings spoke volumes. Carol had no idea. In fact, she was happy I was around more. It's so nice having you here, Sarah. Less lonely, she would say, smiling innocent, unaware. My heart ached with deceit. Then, one Tuesday afternoon my phone buzzed. Bob. Can you meet tomorrow? Lunchtime. There's a hotel near my office. We can have lunch. My heart leapt. A hotel. Deliberate. Dangerous. Isn't that risky? No one will know. I'll be careful. Okay, I whispered. The next day, we met in the quiet hotel lobby. He had slipped away from the office, still in his work suit. And in that moment, the forbidden had become routine, and my pulse surged with anticipation. The city blurred past the window. But inside, the world felt impossibly heavy. My chest ached with a mix of grief and relief. 2 months of stolen moments of fire and ended. Not with anger, not with confrontation, but with quiet, suffocating guilt. I thought about Carol's smile at dinner, her eyes full of trust and love. Completely unaware of the web we had spun right under her nose. That image, innocent and bright, cut sharper than any accusation ever could. Every laugh, every compliment she had given me, every word of gratitude toward Bob, it all became a weight pressing down on my conscience. And yet, buried beneath the shame, a subtle echo of loss lingered. The warmth of his hands, the brush of his lips, the stolen laughter and soft confessions, they were gone. How quickly the heart adapts to what it cannot have. How cruel desire can be when it collides with duty. I gripped the edge of the seat, staring at my reflection in the train window. Sarah, the woman who had been numb for 5 years, had felt alive again. But at what cost? The knowledge that pleasure and guilt had been entwined so tightly made the experience almost unbearable to remember. I tried to steady my breathing, to focus on the mundane rhythm of the train, the clatter of wheels, the distant hum of conversation, but each passing moment pulled me back to him. To Bob. To what we had shared and what we had destroyed. By the time I reached home, dusk had fallen. The streets were empty, quiet, almost mournful. I walked through the door, removed my coat, and sank into the couch, exhausted. My body felt drained, but my mind raced relentlessly, replaying every touch, every glance, every word. I realized then that some fires leave a mark no apology can erase. Some love, no matter how forbidden, changes you forever. And though the affair was over, a part of me would always carry the ache of it. The reminder of the woman had been, the woman I had wanted to be, and the dangerous, beautiful love I had experienced in the shadows of family loyalty. I closed my eyes and whispered to the empty room. I hope you never find out, Carol, and I hope I can forgive myself someday. The city lights flickered outside, indifferent, and I knew that life would go on, but inside, nothing would ever be the same. Tears ran down my cheeks as I sat alone in my apartment, the weight of my betrayal pressing down on me like a physical force. I was crying for Robert, yes, for the loss of what we had shared, but even more, I was crying for my sister Carol. The sister I had loved and trusted, who had confided in me her deepest, most painful secret, and whom I had betrayed. For 20 years Carol had hidden her suffering, protecting Robert's pride and the sanctity of their marriage while silently enduring her own pain. Her confession to me had shaken something deep inside me. For 5 years after my divorce, I had built walls around my heart and body, convincing myself that solitude was safer, that I was better off alone. Yet hearing my sister's story awakened a dormant part of me. A part that remembered what it felt like to desire, to feel alive. A week later, we had a family dinner at Carol and Robert's house. Bob greeted me at the door with his usual warm smile. "Sarah. Good to see you." His presence felt different this time though. I saw him through the lens of my sister's confession, a filter that made every glance, every gesture, more charged than it should have been. At 50, he was still strikingly masculine, tall, broad-shouldered. His body clearly honed by years of regular workouts. I had never considered him in this light before. But now my thoughts betrayed me. This was the man hurting my sister, and the realization stirred emotions I wasn't ready to admit. During dinner, our hands brushed while setting the table. It was fleeting, accidental, but the spark that ran through me was undeniable. Every movement, every casual touch between us now seemed electric. I chastised myself. He was my sister's husband. I couldn't, and shouldn't, feel this way. And yet my heart seemed to have forgotten all logic. Over the following weeks, Carol invited me over more often, seemingly hoping my presence would ease the tension between her and Robert. Each visit became a battle of self-control. My attraction, my desire, was growing in ways I couldn't manage, even in the simplest of gestures. Watching him stir coffee, feeling the warmth of his hand brush mine, my body betrayed me, awakening long-suppressed desires. One night, when Carol had to leave for the hospital, I found myself alone with Bob. The house was cold, the furnace broken, but the tension between us heated the room. We made coffee together, our bodies brushing more than once. And suddenly the physical reality of my sister's confession became undeniable. When he helped me reach a serving platter from the top shelf, his body pressed against mine. A jolt ran through me, and I had to step back to contain the storm of emotions threatening to overtake me. The moment passed, but the seed had been planted. Desire, forbidden yet irresistible, took root in both of us. Every conversation became more intimate, more confessional. He spoke of loneliness, of longing, of frustrations in his marriage. I offered advice, speaking in subtle code about sensitivity, desire, and connection. His vulnerability drew me in, each shared secret and each careful touch feeding a growing intimacy that should never have existed. And then one night it happened. The first kiss. A soft, fleeting connection that held the intensity of all our unspoken longing. It should have been a moment of shame, but instead, it was electric, awakening something I had thought was lost forever. And just as we were caught in the gravity of it, Carol returned home, breaking the spell. The image of her trusting, unsuspecting smile cut me to the core. I was betraying her in every possible way, yet the pull toward Bob was undeniable. Over the next weeks, we tried to deny ourselves, yet each stolen moment only intensified the desire. Coffee meetings, lunch dates, hotel rendezvous. Each encounter deepened the bond between us, a dangerous addiction I couldn't resist. And yet, guilt was always present, sharpened by the knowledge of Carol's trust. The more attentive Bob became toward his wife, the more I realized our affair's hidden consequences. He was applying lessons learned with me to his marriage, and each improvement in their intimacy was a personal knife to my conscience. As months passed, the emotional strain became unbearable. Carol's unawareness and unwavering trust were both a blessing and a curse. Each word of praise, each smile, was a constant reminder of the deceit I carried. Eventually, we both realized the truth: this could not continue. Our hearts ached, but the weight of our betrayal demanded an end. The farewell was heavy with sorrow. We met in the cafe one final time, exchanging a brief, sorrowful hug. Words were unnecessary. The passion, the longing, the intimacy, it all had to end, and so it did. In the weeks that followed, life settled into a fragile normality. Family dinners continued. Bob and I acted naturally, though a current of tension lingered beneath every glance. I knew that my presence alone reminded him of what we had shared, and that thought filled me with guilt. Carol's concern for me was an unbearable burden. Her trust, unshaken and pure, demanded my honesty in action even if not in words. I realized then that the only way to truly atone, and to protect both my sister and myself, was to leave. I told Carol I was considering moving across the country. She was heartbroken, of course, but I needed distance. Every interaction, every shared glance with Bob, risked undoing everything I had fought to suppress. Packing up my apartment, I sorted through memories that couldn't be boxed away: the warmth of his touch, the stolen kisses, the afternoons in hotel rooms. For a fleeting moment, I had felt alive, desired, and whole again. But the cost was too high. My actions had wounded the one person I loved without question. Carol's trust was not something I could betray any longer, even if it meant leaving behind I had briefly been. The day I left, Carol came to see me off. We exchanged brief, quiet words, each of us struggling with the emotion we could not voice. As my car pulled away, I looked in the rearview mirror, tears streaming. "Carol, I am so sorry," I whispered, though she could not hear me. Life in a new city was a fresh start. Slowly I rebuilt myself: a new job, new friends, new routines. Yet in quiet moments, the memories of forbidden passion lingered. I wondered if it had truly been love or a mirage born of loneliness and desire. Real love, I realized, would have demanded a greater struggle. What we shared was intense, thrilling, but fleeting, and ultimately unsustainable. Now, months later, the pain has faded, leaving only the lessons learned. I talk to Carol occasionally, keeping the bond of sisterhood alive, honoring the trust I once broke. Bob's name no longer carries the sharp sting it once did. Our affair is a memory, a dangerous but illuminating chapter of my life. I am content now. I have healed, scars intact, and a sense of peace. That forbidden love was wrong, yes, but it was also a teacher. It reminded me of the value of family, the power of desire, and the consequences of choices. It taught me that love, when real, must contend with responsibility, trust, and integrity. And though the past lingers, I move forward, grateful for the lessons it gave me and the woman I have become.